Does it carry on, this charity?
Yes, I hope so. Obviously, we started the old ICAP charity day in 1993 when the firm was very small. We discussed it in the past. You've been to our charity day.
It's always fun.
You were one of the celebrities. We, you know, I mean...
Zed.
Yeah. So when the ICAP, we split the firm at the end of 2016. The old ICAP was sold to Talit Prebon, and they've continued with that charity day. They had their 25th charity day in December last year. NEX Group, the business that I run, the technology business, we decided for a variety of reasons not to do it the same day as them, and we chose the summer. So today will be the first NEX Giving Day. Around the world, we're giving all our revenue to charity. We estimate that'll be around 2 million sterling, which is and supporting 43 charities around the world.
So hopefully it is going to carry on. You're going to be on the board of the CME, so
yes.
you're going to have a position there, so you will have some influence. How long are you going to carry on doing that for?
They've asked me to stay on the board for 2 years. I'm very proud and privileged to serve them. I know the CME very well. Terry Duffy is a good friend of mine. They've got a fantastic business. This is a very strategic and foresighted deal on their part. It will certainly expand their product range into the cash markets considerably, give them some wonderful sets, cash treasuries, repo, foreign exchange. It's going to be fun. Matt.
Michael, I appreciate you coming in today. With so much experience in financial markets, I wonder what you think about the state of the industry. Where can we see disruptions? Where do you see the best chance for making money in financial markets today?
Do you know, we've obviously there's been a very interesting period in the financial world, in my opinion. I mean, you've got asset prices generally, the stock markets globally at or around all-time record levels. We've been through an extraordinary decade-long bull market supported by obviously ultra-low interest rates. And in my opinion, that bull market is beginning to run out of momentum. I think there are a lot of risk factors in the world today, not just Brexit, not just Italy, not just Korea, but a lot of trade wars globally, and Trump's really beginning to shake things up on that. So my general view is I'm pretty cautious to equity values generally, and that's, I guess, an important starting point.
All right, I was just wondering, because of the technology issues that we see today, they seem to be, in some cases, look, you're going to have problems whatever system you use. I'm sure there were occasionally even an open outcry, once in a while a fist fight or something that delayed an opening. In any case, we still do not have an open on the London Stock Exchange. So let me just take viewers through the latest. We didn't see any auction. We didn't see any pricing at the start of the hour, as we normally would. We then heard that from a number of people that the auction process has started, and now the LSE says this auction is scheduled for 9 a.m. UK time. So look for prices in just about 20 minutes, a little bit longer than 20 minutes time. Guy?
Yeah, let's carry on the conversation with Michael. You talk about the opportunities that exist out there. I just want to pick up on something that our colleagues over at Sky have been reporting, Sky News, that you are looking to acquire a stake in AJ Bell, a 5% stake. Is that something that you are considering? If you could confirm that, that would be fantastic. And B, kind of where you were invested in fintech a great deal.
I still buy the fintech story. I mean, technology is changing our industry. It has changed it out of recognition. But this is not about to end. It is a permanent feature of the commercial landscape, the impact of technology on every part of our life, whether it's your mobile device, but in certainly in terms of the financial structure. And indeed, that's why I split the old ICAP group. The original ICAP, which I founded 30-odd years ago, was very much an old tech business, very much a people-based business. And we morphed it in over the past 15, 20 years into a much more technology-based business. And indeed, I mean, look at the relative valuations. We sold our voice broking business for about $2 billion 15 months ago, and our technology business is being bought for $5.5 billion now. So technology is the future. And indeed, I am proposing to take a stake in AJ Bell. I really like their business. I think the application of technology to wealth management is at a relatively earlier stage in development, and I think it's a long way to go. So I'd like that play. I like that business. I find the CEO very impressive too.
5% sounds about right?
I hope I get to 5%, yes, but we'll see. I think it's going to be a relatively well-supported IPO.
Michael, I want to ask you about, it's no secret, I often say London is my favorite city in the world. I think it's an amazing place to live, an amazing place to visit, and surely an amazing place to do business. But I can't understand why a large bank or a large financial services CEO would keep a business there that needs to be operating in Europe, or at least not shift the lion's share of it onto the continent ahead of this. These Brexit negotiations and the final outcome in March of next year. Do you think we're going to see most financial services move their main hubs into the continent?
No, I don't think we will. I think London will undoubtedly remain the principal financial centre in Europe post Brexit. We've got the skill set, we've got the expertise. Let's refresh ourselves that it's not that long ago the French were supporting a transaction tax in the financial markets. They were advocating it enthusiastically, and now they're trying to tell us that they're pro-free market. I mean, it's kind of, it would be funny if it wasn't serious. I mean, the idea of France being the financial capital of Europe is, in my opinion, simply not achievable. The cost of employment there is too high. They're not free marketeers at heart either. And Germany, I think, probably is a more credible place, but Germany is more interested in their industrial capability, and I don't think they've shown in the past an inclination to really be a dominant player in financial services. So I think London remains the financial capital of Europe. And indeed, by the way, I feel if the Europeans try and block London out of dealing with Europe, they will ultimately finish up damaging themselves much more in terms of capital creation, capital formation. They will be shooting themselves in the foot if they do that.
You're very passionate about this. You always have been. So this kind of raises the question as to, after the 2 years that you're spending at the CME, or even sooner, what does Michael Spencer do next? You're obviously looking to make investments. You're obviously going to be spending a lot of time thinking about those investments that you've already made and are going to make in the future. But there's also this idea floating around that Michael Spencer goes into politics.
Well, I've been on the periphery of politics for a long time.
Yep.
I worked for David Cameron for many years as his treasurer, which I have to say I enjoyed a lot, found very, very interesting. I'm still in touch with him. I do care about politics. I do care about our country. I do care about, and I feel certainly from a financial services point of view, I do have some expertise and I do have some experience and I do have views, and I'm unembarrassed to share them.
You're looking for, are you actively looking for a role to kind of take you in that direction?
No, I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't thought about it in the structured way. I'm still running NEX.
Yep.
The deal hasn't completed. The completion, as you mentioned earlier, will take place in the second half of this calendar year. So I'm obviously focused on delivering that and making sure that when we do deliver that, the NEX business is operating optimally. And by the way, that we've also designed in our preliminary discussions with the CME how that business looks and fits into the much larger CME group. So that's a pretty important task. Then immediately post-completion, they've asked me to remain in an executive role running the integration process, which will last, I guess, another 6 months. So rough plus or minus for the next year, I've got a properly full-time job. After that, I think my role will be more non-executive, and that will free me up, I think, to look at other things. But one, I don't intend to depart and become, I'm not about to disappear to Monaco or to a beach somewhere. You won't find me sipping pina coladas in the Bahamas. Yes, I mean, I'm sure I'll spend a bit more time going away, but I intend to remain London-based, London-focused, and looking at other
politics.
Well, I mean, who knows?
What? Michael, I mean, because you do kind of have your finger on the pulse of Westminster, as a businessman who knows what's going on in British politics, from the EU, from the outside, it looks like this Theresa May government, just its destiny is to get some kind of Brexit package through that makes everybody unhappy and then is replaced. Do you see it that way as well? Is there any future for this government?
it's very easy, obvious from the outside to criticise the way the government is operating. And it is not an easy circumstance they find themselves in. There clearly is not any unanimity of viewpoint in Westminster about how it should look. I mean, bear in mind that there's still a significant component who wish that Brexit wasn't happening at all. I mean, as it happens, I voted in favour of remaining, but I take the view now that the nation has voted, so we need to leave. But the construct of that departure is by no means, there is not a singular view as to what it looks like, what extent we stay in. The customs union is deeply controversial. So our Prime Minister finds herself in probably the most complicated job any Prime Minister has had since the Second World War. So I do feel that she deserves a degree of forgiveness, if that's the right word, for the complexity of her task. But it is right that we have to pull our team together. There's a very important vote in the House of Commons next week. I hope she wins. I sincerely hope she wins. I think the House of Lords, by the way, broadly speaking, has done us no favours at all in resisting all the moves towards Brexit. I hope we're able to put forward a package, and importantly, I hope our European friends, and I do believe that Europe are our friends, and we should be looking forward. We take a practical and sensible view to the construct of the relationship between the UK and Europe going forward post-Brexit, not a punitive one. And I fear that parts of Europe feel that this should be a punitive expedition.
Michael, I want to pull this all together in a way that I hope gives you an opportunity to clarify a few things. You talked about at the beginning about what's happening with the CME deal. You are obviously going to be a fairly significant beneficiary of that. You made some comments the other day regarding the gender pay gap, which raised a few eyebrows. Let me just show you a graphic, which is the most wealthy people that have come out of the City of London, or anyway, you're on it. There are a few other people, Mr. Hargreaves there as well. There's some fairly big names. What is missing from that list is a woman on that list at this point in time. Now, we can go into the reasons as to why that is, but what my question to you is when does that change? When you look around the City of London right now, when you look around the financial sector right now, are there any women coming up that are going to be on that list in 5 years' time, 10 years' time? How long does it take to change the mix?
Well, this is a very controversial subject, as we all know, and people get very excited and het up about it. Discrimination has been against the law for a long time.
Yep.
So it is illegal to pay a woman less than a man for doing the same job. And they're clearly, if we're honest, there are still probably pockets of prejudice, but I think overwhelmingly women are welcome to jobs. I mean, of my senior cadre, a significant number of them are women. If you come into our executive suite, I think 3 out of the 6 offices are occupied by women. By the way, I didn't, if I might say so, employ them because they're women. I employ them because they're good at their jobs. And I'm very nervous of the issue of quotas. I really think that is not a good thing. Of course, I'm in favour of women succeeding and prospering. But let us say, hypothetically, you went to a high school and went around and interviewed the boys and you interviewed the girls and asked them the careers that they anticipated in their future lives. I suggest to you a rather larger number of the boys there might say, I see my future in business or in the city or in finance than the girls. And so, you know...
How do we change that? Because if that's where it starts...
Maybe we can't change it. I mean, maybe that is... Maybe, you know, there are other reasons that contribute to that debate. Does anyone think that British Airways is a bad employer because, you know, 85% of their pilots are men? I don't see anybody saying that's controversial. Does anybody say it's controversial that if you go into medicine, that's dominated by women?
But do you think it's at an employment level, or do you think it's a societal issue that starts much further back?
Well, I don't necessarily have the answers to that. But what I am saying is the simple fact that, you know, whatever it is, that there are less than 30% of boards are women is not, in my opinion, a consequence principally of prejudice against employing women.
Well, and you're not, I mean, look, all due respect, you're not an anthropologist, right? You're a businessman. Let me ask, as someone who hires people and as someone who pays people, do you make an effort to to have an equal mix of men and women on the teams that you put together? Do you make an effort to have equal pay for men and women who are doing the same job?
Well, let me just say, equal pay, absolutely. But apart from the fact that it's a legal obligation, it's the right thing to do anyway. Do I attempt to have a gender balance in the firm? Certainly. But as you said, as a businessman, my job is to employ the best person for the job. So if you're suggesting, would I employ a candidate, male or female, or from a minority group who is palpably less strong simply because they were part of a minority? No, I wouldn't do that. But for hypothetical example, if I had two candidates, one a woman, one a man, both of whom I thought were equally competent, I might well be biased to taking the woman on board simply because I would prefer to get to a more even balance, yes.